Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose. And I've said time and time again this year that we are in the midst of a major change for the game industry. A lot of fans have been shocked and disgusted throughout 2024 over some of the decisions that's been made. It almost feels like core gaming is at a bit of a crossroads right now. A lot of these companies are making changes because what they've been doing is just no longer sustainable. And obviously, that reared its ugly head once again this week. Yesterday, of course, we talked about how Microsoft closed multiple Bethesda studios. Tango Gameworks was the big surprise there. As a fan of Hi-Fi Rush myself, I'm very frustrated over this situation. But the one thing that we all want to know now is context. Like, why did all this happen? And, well, that information is slowly coming in. We got some more details today from Bloomberg and The Verge that revealed some of those details and really even more. In fact, it actually sounds like this could just be the beginning of even more change within Xbox. Unfortunately, when it rains, it pours. But I think it's important for us to understand all this type of stuff. That way we can better navigate these situations together. Now, we will also talk about Nintendo as well. Truthfully, I wanted Nintendo to be the big headline today because, they're really just doing some legitimately exciting stuff. That's the type of stuff that I prefer to talk about. So do stay tuned for all of that. But yeah, let's just go and get right into this Xbox stuff. There's a lot to cover here. But what's happening here is that Jason Schreier from Bloomberg got an inside scoop for what's going on over at Xbox. Now, I'll try to summarize this as much as I can. There was really a lot of interesting information in his report. I will leave a link below. I do highly encourage reading it yourself. But according to what he's heard, these closures were the result of a widespread cost-cutting initiative, and apparently, and this is the scary part here, others across the Xbox organization have been told that more cuts are on the way. So the way that I understand this is that Bethesda is really just the first publishing arm that they looked at. Actually, kind of looking back at it, it does seem like they already did this for Activision as well. Maybe that was the reason they let Toys for Bob go. But it sounds like they're going to look at Xbox Game Studios next. So that means studios like Ninja Theory, 343 Industries, Playground Games, Rare, Obsidian, The Coalition, Double Fine, Undead Labs, and the list just kind of goes on and on. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to close any of these studios. We don't need to jump to that conclusion. But based on this specific report, it wouldn't be all that surprising if they slimmed down by cutting more jobs. They could potentially make some of these studios a little bit smaller going forward. Now, the big question here, though, is why? And Matt Booty gave a very interesting response to this question. He said that studios had been spread too thin, and he compared it to peanut butter on bread. He claimed that leaders across the division had felt understaffed, so they decided to close these studios to free up resources elsewhere. Now, Jill Braff, the head of ZeniMax Studios, also echoed this sentiment and mentioned that they want to focus on fewer projects. She said that it's hard to support 9 studios all across the world with a lean central team with an ever-growing plate of things to do. So, I guess in layman terms here, what all of this kind of boils down to, or at least seemingly, is that Bethesda is going to prioritize fewer but likely bigger projects. They're going to invest the resources on well-established AAA franchises like Fallout, The Elder Scrolls, Doom, Indiana Jones, and pretty much all of the IP that are well-known and are probably a little bit more on the side of surefire hits. This is actually a very similar statement, like oddly similar, to what we just heard from Square Enix last week. And if we're being completely honest about things here, this really is an industry-wide mentality right now. IP has become king to the point that it's become clear that a lot of these big publishers are taking less risks, and they're instead focusing more on established franchises, whether that be Activision, Ubisoft, EA, or even PlayStation, who in recent years has been criticized for this exact approach. Sony's also shut down a lot of their smaller, more creative studios like Japan Studio and Pixel Opus as 2 such examples. Now, they still have Team Asobi and Media Molecule, thankfully. They better keep them around. But I think for us fans who likes these smaller, more creative games, all of this really isn't a great sign for the future. In fact, Tango Gameworks reportedly was in the midst of pitching a Hi-Fi Rush sequel before their closure. And, I guess that's just not going to happen now unless they somehow retain some of the people from that team and put them somewhere else. I don't know if they have or haven't. That's still something that I want them to clarify because, by all indication, Xbox signified that Hi-Fi Rush was this big success for them. They said that they were going to reinvest in Tango Gameworks and grow them. Reportedly, they were even hiring as this closure happened. So it just feels like we're still missing a key part of the story for Tango Gameworks. I'm personally hoping that they retain some of the Hi-Fi Rush team, but, that might just be more of a dream than an actual reality. Either way, though, I'm not exactly satisfied with the answer that they've given us so far with Tango Gameworks. I mean, some of these other studios might make sense, but for them, just based on everything that they had previously told us about this game, it was the success, they're reinvesting in the studio, and it sounded like they were reinvesting in the studio with more hires. But I feel like more information is needed, not just for fans, but really for their employees as well. This information is important for other Xbox studios because there's other Xbox studios that might have some smaller games in development as well. Do they have to fear for their jobs in the future? And that's why I feel like it's important for Xbox to clarify this information. The other major question this all brings up, though, is how does all of this fit into the Game Pass model? Up to this point, it seemed like these smaller, more creative games could live through Xbox Game Pass. But again, that takes us back to the clarification of Hi-Fi Rush because right now that no longer seems to be the case. I imagine a lot of these Xbox studios have the exact same question right now. But according to The Verge, there's also a question about their biggest franchise as well, Call of Duty. We can see here where he said, Microsoft has also had internal debates about whether to put new releases of Call of Duty into Game Pass. I understand this is a debate that has been ongoing internally for quite some time, with concerns from some that the revenue that Call of Duty typically generates for Activision Blizzard will be undermined by Game Pass. I'm told that Microsoft has also considered increasing the price of Game Pass Ultimate again. These are only considerations, so a final decision could mean we still see a future Call of Duty release appear in most versions of Game Pass. The debate internally reflects the fact that Microsoft's Xbox strategy has shifted from just delivering its games exclusively into Game Pass to considering bringing more Xbox games to multiple platforms. So the most important thing to understand here is that this is only a consideration for the time being. Nothing is confirmed one way or the other, so don't take this as some kind of confirmation. And that's really just yet another reason as to why all eyes are on the Xbox Summer Showcase. This is going to be the first showcase with Activision under their umbrella, and it's going to be very interesting to see if they announce the next Call of Duty for Xbox Game Pass. Now, for me, I almost kind of wonder if they'll put it in the Game Pass this year, almost like a test run, if you will, just to see if it increases Game Pass subscribers significantly, because if they can boost Game Pass enough, that'll kind of fix a lot of the problems that they currently have with all of these other studios. If they do include Call of Duty on Game Pass day one, though, really it wouldn't be all that shocking if Game Pass gets some kind of price hike as well. I mean, there's always been a lot of speculation for that. I mean, this is a $70 billion acquisition. Call of Duty obviously is a massive franchise. So, it wouldn't be all that shocking. But right now, my main takeaway from all of this is that there does seem to be more questions over at Xbox than there are answers currently. I don't know if that's necessarily a good sign or not, but we'll just kind of navigate all of this together as we get more information. All the more reason to hit that subscribe button because I will be here with you all every step of the way. Okay, so let's go talk about Nintendo, though. I feel like they're the one console maker that's kind of absent from a lot of these internal problems. It seems like they're much more prepared for the future, and obviously a big part of that is the Switch successor. Well, as we talked about yesterday, they officially confirmed through a tweet that they will reveal the Switch successor this fiscal year, which means it'll be announced before March of 2025. However, they also gave us another important detail in their report, and we can see here, this was transcribed by David Gibson, and check this out. So he tweeted in the results call when asked if the next-gen console was brand new, or Furukawa answered, Switch next model is the appropriate way to describe it. So this is actually very important information because for such a long time, we've all theorized about what Nintendo will do with their next console. I mean, Nintendo's kind of a weird company. I think it's safe to say that. And, they're all about changing things up to introduce new, unique ideas. A lot of their consoles aren't simply about a power jump and nothing more. For Nintendo, they're always looking for new ways to play their games, whether that be motion controls, dual screen, 3D, or even a tablet with the Wii U. And okay, the Switch successor could still have a unique feature like those. We can't rule that out based on this statement alone. But what this ultimately tells us is that whatever their next console will very much be Switch-like in its form factor. So think about the Game Boy to the Game Boy Advance, the DS to the 3DS, or the Wii to the Wii U. These are all successors to a previous model, and personally, I think this is fantastic news. It also, in kind of a sneaky way, might tell us something else as well, because if you think about it, all of the consoles that I just mentioned have backwards compatibility for the model that they were improving on. So I think this is quietly a good sign for the Switch 2 that it will have backwards compatibility. I mean, okay, to be fair here, I've not really ever wavered on this point anyways. I've always been convinced that it will include backwards compatibility. This is something that I'm very confident in just because Nintendo has a good history of this. But I know there's still some concern out there that it might not. So, if anything else, maybe this will ease some of that concern. Speaking of Nintendo, though, they also announced a rather interesting compilation of games. This is Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. They put out a really cool trailer that talks about the history of Nintendo World Championships and some of their live competitions from the past. And this game here kind of brings that experience to your house. So what this is a speedrunning compilation with more than 150 challenges across various NES classics such as Super Mario Bros. 3, Donkey Kong, Kid Icarus, Metroid, Zelda, as well as many others. You can kind of test your skills on the leaderboards, and they'll also have weekly challenges as well. It just sounds like a good, fun idea, and if you get the digital version, it's also going to be more of a budget title. Digitally, it is set at $30. However, for you collectors out there, they do also have a really cool physical edition as well. Now, it will be $60 instead, but for the extra price, it comes included with a gold-colored replica NES cartridge, 13 art cards, 5 pins, and a physical game card as well. Now, I don't know how much stock they're actually going to supply of this. It's currently still in stock as of this recording, but honestly, I think this is a really cool collector's item. I pre-ordered it myself, but I just think it's a good, fun idea, and that's Nintendo for you. They're really that one company that prioritizes that fun factor. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode, but do let me know what you all think about the Xbox situation. How are you feeling about all of this? But until next time, peace out.